From order to disorder, let drift is entropy increasing. Entropy is the statistical weight of messianism, number of microscopic ways a macroscopic state can be realized. The arrow you feel is the universe sliding toward the states. It has more ways to be. You call that forward, but notice what forward really means in this context. It means the direction the system is overwhelmingly likely to go. Not because time is pushing it, asterisk because the space of possibilities is lopsided. There are more disordered states than ordered ones, so random motion tends to wander into disorder, the way a drunk person tends to wander away from a tightrope and into the wide street. Order is narrow, disorder is wide. Now think about memory again. Your brain built to store record streets, those records as the past, because the past leaves traces, patterns, embedded in the present. The future hasn't left traces yet, not because it is magically absent, but because record-making itself is part of physical processes that follow the entropy gradient you live inside. Your memories are not mystical, they are physical. They are synapses strengthening, pathways reinforcing, chemistry settling into structures, and those structures require energy to create and energy to maintain. So even your remembering is part of the universe's thermodynamic story. That's why time feels like it has direction, because your entire recording system is built inside a world where processes tend to be irreversible. So your sensation of time flowing is largely your sensation of entropy increasing. You are, among other things, a disorder detector. You notice decay, you notice wear, you notice the one-way nature of spills, breaks, burns, and mixing. A candle burning doesn't move forward in time. Asterisk wax melts, heat flows, smoke disperses, molecules rearrange. We call the ordering of that process time, but the process is the real thing. If the universe ever reached a state where everything was evenly spread out, where no useful gradients existed, where nothing interesting was in thermal equilibrium, then the distinctions your brain relies on would fade. No strong before and after, no dramatic, irreversible processes, no clear arrow. Not because a river stopped flowing, because the frames stopped being meaningfully different. Now we come to the beginning. The place your narrative, hunger always runs toward. If the universe is expanding, running the movie backward makes it smaller, hotter, denser. Eventually you hit a boundary where our current physics stops being reliable. We call that boundary the Big Bang. And people ask, what happened before? But with our new definition, the question becomes dangerous. If time is a way of ordering events inside the universe, if time depends on physical processes that exist within the universe, then asking before the universe may be like asking, what is north of the North Pole? The sentence is grammatical, but the geometry may not allow it. There may not be a before the way your brain wants there to be, and that resistance you feel, that need for an endless timeline, that's psychology rubbing against cosmology. Because you are a creature that survives by building stories. Beginning, middle, end. But the universe does not owe you a familiar narrative structure. It only owes you consistency. Now, this is where a quieter realization comes in, one that people often miss. When you lose the river metaphor, you don't lose meaning. You lose a comforting lie, and then you gain a sharper view of what's actually happening. You stop saying, time took it from me, and you start saying a process changed it. That may sound like it removes poetry, but it can also create a different kind of beauty. The beauty of seeing the mechanism. Because once you see the mechanism, you stop fighting ghosts. And you can finally focus on the real causes. Now return one last time to the counting experiment. The voice counter and the visual ticker can both arrive at 1 minute. But internally, they may be running completely different systems. They think they agree because the output matches, but the machinery is alien. This is how humans misunderstand each other about almost everything: time, love, fear, meaning. We share words, but we don't share internal formats. So when you say, I understand time, what you often mean is, I translated the word into my favorite mental picture. And that favorite picture is usually a river. But the river was never required by the equations. It was never demanded by measurement. It was a metaphor. You forgot was a metaphor. So here's the watchful conclusion, stated plainly. Time is not a flowing substance. Asterisk. Time is not a force. Time is not a cosmic conveyor belt. Time is a measurement of change, a way to order events, a coordinate in the geometry of spacetime, a label system built from clocks, processes repeating in a stable way. The arrow you feel comes from entropy. Asterisk. The now you cling to is local. Asterisk. The ticking you trust is not universal. And yet, your life still works. You can still meet someone for coffee. Asterisk. You can still boil an egg. Asterisk. You can still count down to a moment and arrive there. because the weirdness is mostly hidden at your scale. But knowing it changes how you speak. You stop saying time took it from me, as if time is a thief. You start naming the real forces: biology, chemistry, motion, gravity, disorder. You stop worshiping the river. You start watching the machinery. And the next time you look at a clock, really look, don't imagine a current carrying you. Aim as a counter, a local device marking regular change, while you move along your path through the universe. Tick, 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 not the sound of time flowing, the sound of the world changing and you keeping score. If nothing changes, no interactions, no oscillations, no decay, no movement, then time becomes undefined. Not philosophically undefined. Operationally undefined. No change, no clock. Asterisk no clock. No time measurement. Time is not separate from the stuff in the universe. Time is a description of what the stuff is doing. That should make you careful with language. Because language tries to turn time into a thing, and physics keeps stripping it back down into a method. If you want a harsh version of the truth, it's this. Time is what you get when you compare processes. That's why a clock is not an object that captures time. Asterisk a clock is an object that repeats a physical cycle reliably enough for you to count it. A pendulum doesn't contain time. It contains motion. Asterisk a quartz crystal doesn't contain time. It contains vibration. Asterisk an atom doesn't contain time. It contains a transition frequency. Time is the number you assign to how many cycles happen between two events. And now we reach the part where the ruler becomes unsettling. Because if time is a ruler for change, what happens if the ruler itself is not rigid? What happens if the measuring system is flexible? This is not science fiction. It's measured fact. Clocks do not tick at the same rate everywhere. A clock's rate depends on motion and gravity. Not because the clock is broken, not because it's malfunctioning, because reality is built that way. The geometry of space-time makes it unavoidable. You grew up believing there is one master time and all clocks report it. That belief was convenient. It was also wrong. There is no universal metronome. There are local clocks, each accumulating its own time along its own path. And your body is one of those clocks. So when you say moving through time, here's a sharper statement. You are moving through space-time along a world line, and the amount of time you accumulate depends on how you move and where you are. This sounds abstract until you translate it into something blunt. If you change how you move through space, you change how your clock accumulates time. At human speeds, the differences are tiny, too small to feel, but they aren't zero. And the universe doesn't care what you can feel. The universe cares what is true. We know this is real because modern systems must correct for it. Satellites, navigation, timing, networks. If you ignore relativity, the numbers drift, the errors grow. The map stops matching the territory. So what you call a second is not a universal substance. It's local, and now, once you accept that, you have to face an even stranger consequence. Your favorite idea, the present moment, breaks apart. People talk as if the present is a universal slice, like a cosmic sheet of glass cutting cleanly through everything that exists. Everyone shares one now. The universe updates together, but now is not universal. Different observers, moving differently, slice the block of events differently. What one observer calls simultaneous, another observer will not. Your definition of right now is partly a choice, partly a function of your motion, and if that feels wrong, it's because your mind is clinging to a very human assumption that the universe has a single camera angle. It's awesome single. Quotes T. Reality is not obliged to give you one synchronized stage. Reality is a four-dimensional structure, and you are a creature experiencing it from one narrow thread through it. So the universe is not a story being written line by line with a single cursor moving forward. It is a structure of events, and your experience of flow is the way your brain reads that structure, because your brain can't see the full structure at once, and it needs a survival-friendly interface. Now the next trap. The arrow. Even if you accept that time doesn't flow, you still feel time has a direction. Past feels fixed. Future feels open. You remember what happened, but you don't remember what will happen. Why? If you film planets orbiting and play it backward, it still looks valid. Gravity doesn't care. Many equations work both ways. So why does a broken glass look fake when reversed? Why does an egg not reassemble itself? Because this is not primarily about time. It's about probability. It's about disorder. It's about how many ways there are for things to be arranged. A whole egg is a rare configuration. A broken egg has countless possible configurations. Shell in 3 pieces. Shell in 1,000 pieces. Yolk here, yolk there, smeared, scattered, mixed. So when systems interact, They tend to drift from states with fewer possible arrangements to states with more possible arrangements. You think you understand time? You wear a watch. You feel yourself getting older. You remember yesterday and you plan for tomorrow. Time feels obvious, like the most natural thing in the world. Like gravity, like breathing. Like something you never had to learn because it has always been there. But that feeling is not time. It's a sensation, a biological interface, a prediction engine built out of meat and electricity. Your brain produces time the way it produces color and pain, as a useful experience, not a direct readout of reality. And that difference matters more than people want to admit, is you don't just notice time, you live inside a story of time. You'll build your identity in it, you attach regrets to the past, you attach hope to the future, you attach fear to the idea of running out. So when someone tells you the story is wrong, when someone says time doesn't work the way you feel it, your mind doesn't treat it like a new fact, it treats it like a threat. Most people carry a poetic picture. Time is a river. It flows. It drags you from the past, through the present, into the future. It's beautiful, and it's wrong. Because if time is a river, how fast does it flow? 1 second per second. That doesn't describe anything. It's a sentence that collapses in on itself, that tells you nothing about the structure of the universe. It's like saying a table is 1 table long. It sounds like an explanation until you stare at it long enough for it to dissolve. The truth is less romantic and much more mechanical. Time doesn't flow. Time doesn't push you. Time doesn't do anything. That sentence sounds cold, but it's not pessimism, it's precision. Time is not an agent. It has no hands. It doesn't reach into your body and make you older. It doesn't sour milk. It doesn't rust metal. Biology, bacteria, chemistry, and entropy do those things. Time is the bookkeeping system you use to track the rate of change. Saying time did it is like saying inches built a house. Inches didn't build anything. Carpenters did. Inches just describe distances. And when you really accept that, something changes in the way you look at the world. You stop talking as if time is a villain. Asterisks, you stop giving it personality. Asterisk, you stop blaming it like it's a thief. You start looking for the real causes, not because you're trying to be dramatic. Asterisk, because you're trying to be awake. This is where your intuition tries to fight back. And this is where the confusion begins. Inside your skull, you think you have an internal clock. You don't. You have a collection of hacks. And the fact that your time sense is hacky is not an insult as expected. Your brain wasn't designed to measure reality. Your brain was designed to keep you alive. It doesn't care about truth. It cares about usefulness. Try counting to 60 in your head. Be honest about what you're doing. Some of you will hear a voice. 1, 2, 3. You're literally speaking silently to yourself. Interrupt that voice. Make yourself talk out loud, and your counting collapses. The mechanism jams. Your clock was never a clock. It was a fragile loop. Others will not hear a voice at all. They'll see something. A line, a dial, a tape measure, numbers sliding forward like a ticker. Click, 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 click. And if you're using that visual system, you may be able to read, or sort a list, or scan details while the inner ticker continues. 2 people, same goal, completely different machinery. That alone should make you suspicious of your own certainty. Because if your experience of time can be constructed in multiple, incompatible ways, then your experience of time is not time itself. It's a mental model. Asterisk, a private translation scheme. A controlled hallucination that helps you function. And once you understand that, you start noticing other strange facts about your time. You notice how a minute of pain feels longer than a minute of comfort. Asterisk, do you notice how waiting feels? Like time is thick? Like it has syrup in it? You notice how joy makes hours vanish? You notice how fear makes seconds expand. If your inner clock were a real clock, none of that would happen. But your inner clock is not a clock. It's attention plus memory plus expectation. When attention is intense, your brain records more detail. More detail makes a moment feel larger in hindsight. Asterisks, when attention is absent, your brain records less. Less record makes a span feel like it disappeared. So your experience of time is not only personal. It's editable. ED. And that's your first warning. The thing you call time passing is not something you can trust as a universal guide. So, if we want to talk about the universe about physics, we have to stop trusting what it feels like. We have to be operational. That means we don't ask the poetic question, what is the essence of time? We ask the colder question, how do we measure it? And the answer is almost disappointingly simple. Time is a way of ordering events. That's it. Not a substance. Not a current. Not a force. A way of labeling the relationships between changes. Imagine a deck of cards laid out on a table. You can say one card is before another, and another card is after. The cards aren't moving. The table isn't flowing. The order is a property of the arrangement. Time is the ordering. Asterisk events are the cards. When you say time passes, you are not describing a physical flow. You are describing your traversal of an ordered structure. You are describing the fact that you, as a biological system, can only access one part of that structure at once. You remember earlier cards? You can't remember later cards. So your mind invents the feeling of a moving spotlight called now. Now comes the next illusion you have to let go of. The idea that time is a container. Many people imagine the universe as a big empty box, and time is a clock on the wall of that box, ticking even if nothing is inside. Remove all matter, all light, all motion, and you assume the clock still goes. Tick, tick, tick. But a second is not something you can define without a physical. Processa. Second is not a magical unit floating in emptiness. A second is defined by regular change, a pendulum swing, a quartz vibration, an atomic transition.